fortress.
Hello, my name is Anna, and happy Mental Health Awareness Month. I was encouraged by a coworker and dear friend to share some of the ways that I've been keeping sane, just in life in general, but especially during this pandemic because we are inside, we have so much downtime. So a couple things came to mind with that. This book, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality, there is a part where the author is talking about Luke 10 with Mary and Martha. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." Mary and Martha represent two approaches to Christian life. Martha is actively serving Jesus, but she is missing Jesus. She is busy in the doing of life. Her life at this moment is filled with shoulds and have-tos. Her life is fragmented, pressured, and filled with distractions. Her duties have become disconnected from her love for Jesus. Martha's problem goes beyond her busyness. Her life is uncentered and divided. I suspect that if Martha were to sit at the feet of Jesus, she would still be distracted with everything on her mind. Her inner person is touchy, irritable, and anxious. One of the surest signs of her life being out of order is that she even tells God what to do. Mary, on the other hand, is sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening to him. She is being with Jesus, enjoying intimacy with him, loving him, attentive, open, quiet, taking pleasure in his presence. She's engaged in what we call the contemplative life. Mary is not trying to master God. Her life has one center of gravity, Jesus. I suspect that if Mary were to help with the many household chores, she would not be worried or upset. Why? Because she's slowed down enough that she is focused on Jesus and centering her life on him. And so that is something that I think in all of life that we find different challenges with. I know for myself, it's very hard. My mind naturally just races and races and races. And so this time where I have to be, stay put and be still has caused me to just pursue time with the Lord throughout the day and just contemplating about the tasks before me in a different way. Not getting frustrated with that and praying about it. And so my friend, she encouraged me to just share what I've done, which is Bible journaling. And sometimes I do that directly in my Bible, and sometimes I do that in my journal. But I do that because sometimes I literally need to sit down and just still my mind away from thoughts, because it is so easy. Even now, I found it more challenging not being at work to really be still. And a passage that's really stuck with me, especially in this time, is Psalm 119, 133, which says, "Make my steps steady through your promise. Don't let any sin dominate me." And, God's word really does steady us. And I can't think of a better word right now. Going forward, whenever this does lift, life's going to be shaped by this going forward. But I think that can come to bear in a very fruitful way if the way that we live day to day and think about God and his word is shaped by this time. And my prayer is that by sharing this, that people would be encouraged to be more contemplative. I don't do the art because I want it to look a certain way. I do it because I know I'm going to flip back to those pages time and time again when I'm discouraged, just day to day, for being sustained and being steadied, and going back and meditating on those things. And one last thing that was brought to mind by just thinking through this is A.W. Tozier, The Pursuit of God. The first chapter, one titled Following Hard After God, it opens up with Psalm 63:8, which says, "My soul followeth hard after thee, thy right hand upholdeth me." Christian theology teaches the doctrine of prevenient grace, which briefly stated means this, that before man can seek God, God must first have sought the man. Before a sinful man can think a right thought of God, there must have been a work of enlightenment done within him. Imperfect it may be, but a true work nonetheless, and the secret cause of all desiring and seeking and praying which may follow. We pursue God because, and only because, he has first put an urge within us that spurs us to the pursuit. "No man can come to me," said our Lord, "except the Father which hath sent me draw him." And it is by this very prevenient drawing that God takes from us every vestige of credit for the act of coming. The impulse to pursue God originates with God. By the outworking of that impulse is our following hard after him. And all the time we are pursuing him, we are already in his hand. "Thy right hand upholdeth me." In this divine upholding and human following, there is no contradiction. All is of God, for as von Hugel teaches, God is always previous. In practice, however, that is, where God's previous working meets man's present response, man must pursue God. On our part, there must be positive reciprocation if this secret drawing of God is to eventuate an identifiable experience of the divine. In the warm language of personal feeling, this is stated in the 42nd Psalm. "As the hart panteth after the water brooks, so panteth my soul after thee, O God. My soul thirsteth for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? This is deep calling unto deep, and the longing heart will understand it." The doctrine of justification by faith of biblical truth and a blessed relief from sterile legalism and unavailing self-effort has in our time fallen into evil company and been interpreted by many in such manner as actually to bar men from the knowledge of God. The whole transaction of religious conversion has been made mechanical and spiritless. Faith may now be exercised without a jar to the moral life and without embarrassment to the Adamic ego. Adamic, referring to Adam. Christ may be received without creating any special love for him in the soul of the receiver. The man is saved, but he is not hungry nor thirsty after God. In fact, he is specifically taught to be satisfied and encouraged to be content with little. It goes on to say, God is a person, and in the deep of his mighty nature, he thinks, wills, enjoys, feels, loves, desires, and suffers as any other person may. In making himself known to us, he stays by the familiar pattern of personality. He communicates with us through the avenues of our minds, our wills, and our emotions. The continuous and unembarrassed interchange of love and thought between God and the soul of the redeemed man is the throbbing heart of New Testament religion. This intercourse between God and the soul is known to us in conscious personal awareness. It is personal, that is, it does not come through the body of believers as such, but it is known to the individual and to the body through the individuals which compose it. And it is conscious, that is, it does not stay below the threshold of consciousness and work there unknown to the soul, as for instance, infant baptism is thought by some to do, but comes within the field of awareness where the man can know it is as he knows any other fact of experience. And then it goes on to quote a hymn that says, "We taste thee, O thou living bread, and long to feast upon thee still. We drink of thee, the fountainhead, and thirst our souls from thee to fill." It says that hymnody is sweet with the longing after God, the God whom while the singer seeks, he knows he has already found. "His track I see and I'll pursue," sang our fathers only a short generation ago, but that song is heard no more in the great congregation. And then this really struck me. If we find God amid all the religious externals, we must first determine to find him and then proceed in the way of simplicity. Now, as always, God discovers himself to babes and hides himself in thick darkness from the wise and prudent. We must simplify our approach to him. We must strip down to essentials, and they will be found to be blessedly few. We must put away all effort to impress and come with the guileless candor of childhood. If we do this, without doubt, God will quickly respond. And so, me sharing about contemplative spirituality and being more like Mary, who sits at the feet of Jesus, and pursuing hard after God in the simplistic terms of that, which mean, coming for the Lord with His Word and what's on our hearts, and just being humbled by the fact that He does steady us with His promises, and that humbled by the fact that the urge and the hunger that we have to seek Him is not something that we conjure up ourselves. Naturally, we don't have that. It's something that He's given us, something to be grateful for, and something to really nurture in our everyday life, and find ways to seek Him and find ways to be like Mary in those household chores and work with all of the Zoom fatigue to quiet my soul and quiet my mind enough to contemplate that even though I may be weary, that those are things to be grateful for, and that He will continue to sustain me. So one of the ways that I put those things before my mind is through journaling, and I wanted to share some resources to kind of just help lift the burden of this time. And so I wanted to share that context of why I do that. I don't journal because it looks pretty. I do it because it's a way for me to just stick these truths before my eyes at all times and go back to those truths. Sometimes quiet time doesn't look like getting into something new. Sometimes it looks like meditating on something that I looked at the day before, the week before, maybe even the month before. Something might come to mind and I have the picture in my mind and I go back to it. So just wanted to share some of that with you, and also share a resource for you to do your own just contemplative thinking through some passages and through some truths in color. So this is one thing I did. This is Tafiti, and I think I may have recently watched Moana, and I started to think about Ezekiel 36, which talks about the Lord removing the heart of stone and giving them a heart of flesh, and just making them His people and writing His word on their heart, and sometimes it's as simple as stick people and wrestling through faith and temporal perspective versus eternal perspective. Sometimes it is very ugly bubble letter. Sometimes it is writing out a passage or writing out song lyrics and kind of just meditating on those words. Sometimes it's really, really messy. Really, really messy. Then more recently, and this is what I'm going to be sharing, is I wanted to take some of the truths that I have been meditating on and make my own coloring pages in my journal. And like, art puts me in a contemplative space and it slows down my mind. Singing does the same thing. I can't think about 1,000,001 things worshiping the Lord. I can't do that. So sometimes it's very encouraging for me to like just put on music and sing when I'm making breakfast or dinner. If you click the link in my profile or in this post, you can find some fun coloring. My soul